In this lesson, we're going to create the initial setup for our explosion particle system. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is actually go ahead and hide our particle systems here that we've already created. So let's go ahead and go to our select by name. And I just want to select my fire and my smoke. And we're going to hit OK on that. And what we're going to do is right click and hide selection. So that way we don't have so much going on in our scene. So whenever we want to move our time slider, we actually have a little bit more memory to work. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch to our perspective view as well. So that way we can select some polygons on the side of our building here. So let's go ahead and select our building. And what I'm going to do is hit Z on my keyboard just so I can orbit and zoom in on this a little bit easier. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually extract some geometry from this building to create our emitter for our particles to birth from. And then we're going to also create a broken wall, so that way whenever our explosion happens, we have a broken wall in place to add to the realism to this. So let's go ahead and go to our modify panel, and let's go to our polygon mode, and we're going to select just this area of polygons here. And I'm just control clicking this just to make sure I get all of those. And what we're going to do now is go ahead and actually extract these polygons. So let's go to our move tool, and we're going to hold down shift. We're going to move this in the X direction. And let's go ahead and call this brick emitter. And we're going to hit OK. And let's turn off polygon mode and select that emitter. And what we need to do now is go to our edge mode and just clear out these segments in here. So I'm just going to select one of these edges on each one of these lines. And we're going to hit loop. And that will select all of those edges on the inside. And we're going to hold down control and hit backspace. And this will remove those edges and also the vertices that were on those edges. Okay. Now what I want to do is actually go ahead and add some segments into this plane, and I wanted to clear those out just so I can add these segments nice and evenly. So let's go ahead and select the outside edges here, and we're going to use a tool called Connect, and we're going to use the settings of Connect here. Now this is going to bring up our caddy, and what I want to do is type in a number of segments, and we're going to do 30. We want to give this plenty of segments to work with here. And we're going to hit OK. Now I want to go back up to the top of my rollouts here, and I want to hit ring just to make sure that I get all of these segments coming through here. And we're going to do that same thing. We're going to hit connect on this one, and instead of 30, let's go ahead and do 20. We don't need as many in the length or the width direction here, so let's hit OK. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually generate some topology here, and we want to generate a brick topology pattern. So what we need to do is go ahead and select a single edge, and we want to make sure that it's a vertical edge, one that's pointing up and down. Okay? And we're going to go to our ribbon, and we're going to go to the graphite modeling tools, polygon modeling, and then we're going to use this generate topology. Okay, this will bring up our topology dialog box, and we see that we have this brick pattern here, and you'll notice that the little description here says it requires one edge to be selected. The direction of the edge determines which way is up. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on that, and this has generated our brick topology. So let's go ahead and close this out, and we have our emitter. So let's go ahead and create our broken wall here. So let's go ahead and grab our move tool, and let's turn off edge mode, and we're going to hold down shift, and we're going to go ahead and move this wall here. So we're going to make a copy of this, and we're going to actually name this broken wall. We'll hit OK on that, and let's go ahead and take our emitter and just kind of move it back here up against this wall here. And you don't have to be exact or anything like that. We're just wanting to get close right now. And let's go ahead and select our brick wall here. Now what I want to do is go ahead and select some polygons in here and just delete those out. So let's go ahead and go to our freehand draw on our selection lasso here. So if you just hold down on your selection lasso and go down to freehand, what we can do is actually draw what polygons we want selected. Now I also want to make sure that I have this window mode turned on, because whatever polygons that are completely encompassed by the selection will be selected. Okay, so let's go ahead and select our select object tool, and what we want to do is go ahead and switch over to our right view. So let's click on perspective. Let's get that out of the way there. Try this one more time. Let's go to perspective and right. Okay, and let's go ahead and move on over here, and let's go ahead and make our selection. So let's go ahead and make sure that we're on polygon mode here, and let's just deselect those, and we're just going to draw out a circle here. And it doesn't have to be perfect or anything like that. We just want to get kind of a general shape for our explosion here. Okay, now what I want to do is go ahead and just delete these polygons. So let's just hit delete on our keyboard, and I'm going to go ahead and switch back to perspective. Now I want you to notice that this brick wall that we've created is still very flat. It has 0 depth here. So I want to go ahead and give it some depth. So let's turn off polygon mode. And you might be thinking, okay, well, let's go ahead and use the extrude modifier to do this. Well, we could, but that would leave an open hole on the back side of our brick here, and I really don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my shell modifier to go ahead and extrude this out. Okay, so we're going to use shell, and you'll notice that it creates the back side of this geometry. So that's what I was looking for. And I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and convert it to an editable poly, just to collapse that modifier stack. Okay. Now, most importantly, what we want to do now is go ahead and create, or I'm sorry, go ahead and center up our pivot points here. So let's go to our hierarchy panel and go to the effect pivot only, and we're going to do center to object. Okay, so let's turn that off, and let's go ahead and select our emitter and do that same thing. So let's do effect pivot only and center to object. Okay, and let's go ahead and move our brick wall in place. So just move it. Doesn't have to be right on the wall. We want to be pretty close though. And let's select our emitter now. Okay, because now I need to create the actual particle for our brick explosion here. So let's go ahead and go to our modify panel with this selected, and let's go to our polygon mode, and let's deselect, and we just want to select a single polygon here. Okay, sorry about that, my viewport kind of wigged out on me there. So let's go ahead and actually extract this polygon. So hold down shift and move this out in the X direction, and we're going to call this brick particle, and we'll hit OK on that. And let's turn off that polygon mode and select that single brick particle there. So we need to give this some thickness, so let's go ahead and use that shell modifier, and it's gone ahead and kept those settings at 3, okay, on our amount. And most importantly, the brick particle is probably the most important to center up that pivot point. So let's go to our hierarchy panel, effect pivot only, and center to object. You want this pivot point to be centered on your particle here, because whenever you go ahead and set up that particle system, if it's not centered, it will offset from the emitter and it won't give you the desired result that you're looking for. So you always want to make sure that the instance geometry particle has its pivot point centered on the object. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and right click on this and convert it to an editable poly, just to collapse that shell into the editable poly. So now we have our brick particle, we have our particle emitter, and then we also have our broken wall to stand in for us whenever this explosion takes place. Okay, so what we're going to do in the next lesson is go ahead and create that explosion particle system and get that behavior. So we'll do that in the next lesson.